So let's start at the beginning, I guess, of when, make sure, when did you know that you wanted to be a teacher?
I actually started college as a pharmacy major, and I went the first 2 years. And the saying goes, whenever God closes a door, he opens a window. And I kind of realized very quickly that the reason that it didn't work out was because that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. So I switched my major to education, and I remember walking into my first day of student teaching, and I had learned that the woman that I was student teaching under had been diagnosed with blood clots, and so I was by myself. But I remember walking in that day, and it's just a feeling that you have in your heart that you know you're where you're supposed to be. And it's that, they always say that he may not show you his plan right away, but someday down the road he will. And that was my moment where I was like, okay, yeah, you were right. This is where I'm supposed to be. So that was a really cool moment.
And had you heard of the Golden Apples?
I had. I mean, when I was little, Channel 10, of course, is one of the biggest news broadcasting stations in Olney, especially. And so I'd watched it since I was little, and Kevin Orpert and everything like that. And I remember watching teachers get the Golden Apple, but I don't know if it ever registered to me until we started seeing people from our district actually win the Golden Apple, which was really, really cool.
And that's one of the things I was going to ask you about. I mean, you guys have actually a pretty big tradition of Golden Apple winners. What's it mean to you to be a part of that group now?
It's very humbling as a teacher, especially a high school teacher, to have a high school student with their lives and how crazy and how hectic they are, to take a time to stop and write a letter about you and remember things that you've done, remember you. I think as a teacher, that's the biggest compliment you can have, is to have a kid look back in 10 years or in 5 years or even a year later and say, I remember her, she did this, I always loved going to her class. And that's a memory I want them to have. I want them to think back and say, she loved us. Every day she loved us. And that's that to me is what education's all about. The content will come and go and things change, but you have to love the people that walk through your door every day. And that's the biggest sometimes the biggest challenge, but also the biggest perk of it is you get to do that every single day. But to be added to the 2 that have won already is a huge honor. I mean, they're amazing teachers. People always ask me, I went to high school here, and they say, why did you come back? Why in the world are you back? And I teach chemistry in the classroom that I took chem in. And it's kind of, deja vu all over again, but there's something special. There's something special about this little bitty town and the people that live in it, and I really do have the best kids in the world. So I don't know, I love coming to my job every day.
Yeah. When somebody walks into your classroom, what are they going to see?
I call it organized chaos every day. I am not the teacher who wants quiet. I'm not the teacher who wants silence. My kids, you'll hear me ask them, talk to me. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're doing. I want to know that they're processing the information that they're learning. And I want them, one thing I have done is a lot of people have put technology in the hands of their students, allowing them to use cell phones, which is a wonderful thing, but I kind of reverted. And so I take cell phones away. So when they walk into my room, on the wall is a calculator holder, and they exchange their calculator for their cell phone every day. Because I want them to talk. I want them to interact with one another. I want them to talk to me, and it's hard to do that when your face is buried. So yeah, I call it organized chaos. There's lots of talking, there's lots of laughing, and there's lots of conversation, and that's how I want my room to be. Not for everybody, but definitely what I want my room to be.
What does it mean to you to be teaching in the school that you went to? I mean, that's kind of unique.
Yeah, I taught 1 year in Pekin, Illinois, which is up north near Peoria, and I wanted to come back. Like I said, it's a special place, so to get to teach in the room, like I said, it's kind of deja vu. But it's also really cool. I've become friends with the teachers that I had in high school. It took me about 2 years to be able to call them by their first names, but it's just a great feeling. Like I said, it's an amazing community, and there's something about those small rural schools that are special, and it has that sense of community that's brought in. And so this is where I wanted to be.
Yeah. For somebody who's never stepped foot in this school, talk a little bit about it. What does it mean to you to be here?
I'm trying to think. It's a sense of pride. I think it really is. I am a product of this environment, and I know that when I went to college, I was ready and I was prepared. And I think in my mind, I want to make sure that my students, whether they're going to college or whether they're going into a 2-year technical school or whether they're going into the workforce when they leave, I want them to be able to be the most productive citizens they can. And that's something that I really saw when I was in high school, coming out of this high school, and it's something that I want to be able to contribute to. I truly feel like the teachers that are in these rooms, in this building, love and care for their kids. And it's just that environment where you know that they're cared for. I would be thrilled to send a child to this school because they really are in amazing hands. So.
I should have asked you this earlier. How long have you been teaching?
This is my 7th year in education.
7th year. Yeah. And what, you said 1 year was?
1 year was in Pekin. I moved home the year after Pekin, and I actually didn't have a position. So I came back to this district and I subbed for a school year, which was interesting. I went all the way from like teaching 3rd grade PE to kindergarten. I can remember walking out of kindergarten and saying, don't ever send me to kindergarten again. I'm much more high school based than I am elementary. But at Christmas, one of our math teachers had, her husband was in a farming accident, and our principal called and said, Chelsea, how do you feel about teaching algebra and advanced algebra? And I said, I'm a biology teacher. And he said, I know, but you have an intensive math background and you can do it. And so that's actually what got them to offer me my job here, was how I did in that math position for the semester that I was there. I don't ever want to teach math again, but it was definitely, like I said, it's one of those situations where God's showing you his path, and that was one that led me into this. So,
what is it about chemistry that you love so much?
It's not necessarily, I do love chemistry now, but I love science because the world revolves around science. Everything that happens in our bodies, everything that happens in the environment around us, the weather, how our cars work, every single thing we do every day is science. And to me, there's nothing cooler, nothing better than learning why things happen. And that light bulb that goes on when my kids realize, or when they start to ask questions and they start to explore things, there really isn't anything better than that. Like right now, they're running back and forth in my classroom playing a review game about what they learned yesterday, and you start to see the light bulbs turn on. And I just love that idea of science and exploring why are these things happening around me. So
I have 2 science majors in my house right
do
now.
You?
So I understand.
Yes.
I literally have conversations with them I don't understand sometimes.
Yeah. I think my parents feel the same way sometimes.
I guess years from now, when you're retired and
That's a long time.
and you're not here anymore, what do you want your students, like you kind of mentioned this earlier, but what do you want them to remember about your class, about you?
I want them to think she set us up to be successful. Even if I have some that will never take a chemistry class again after my class, because that's just not what they're geared into. They're art majors, or they want to go into construction, and that's all fantastic. But I want them to think, man, she made us study. She made us work hard. She made me believe I could do this. And that's an amazing thing. But more than anything, I had a retired teacher one time stand up as her farewell speech, and she said, the curriculum's going to change, the legislation's going to change, the kids that walk through your classroom are going to change. She said, but what I want you to remember is they will always remember if you loved them. And that was hands down one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard. And I try to take that with me every day. My kids are a lot of the times my sunshine, so on my bad days, they make me smile, they make me laugh. Like right now I have a kid in there wearing his headband like a barrette in his hair, and his hair's all spiked up, and they just make you, they make you thankful. They really do. They make you, they humble you sometimes, but they also build you up, and I don't know, there's no better job than being a teacher, so.
Tell me a little bit about, your principal was telling me about a construction committee.
Yes.
I guess I want to ask you, I know that teaching is not just a,
8 to 3 job.
Yeah.
No.
Talk a little bit about some of the things you're involved in
Okay.
besides that.
Okay. 6 years ago, I was asked to go on a trip to New Orleans. 2 of the teachers, Brian Cummins and Norm Henderson, had started right after Hurricane Katrina. They went the year after. And so they'd already gone for 4 years. But they came to me and they said, hey, we need a female chaperone. Would you want to go and build with us in Lafayette, Louisiana? And this was the first year that we partnered with Habitat for Humanity. And I said, sure. I knew nothing about, I loved to be outside, loved to do things like that, but I knew nothing about building houses. But I said, yeah, I'll go. So that became very quickly I'm one of the sponsors now. So this year we went for the 10th year total, but my 6th year of traveling to Lafayette, Louisiana to build with Habitat for Humanity. And we are one of the only 3 high school groups that Lafayette allows to come in and build with their Habitat organization. We are the only group that are allowed to use power tools. So that's pretty cool because the kids get a lot of hands-on experience, but they literally go in and they help build a house. They frame walls, they put siding up, they set trusses, they put roofs on. They have built the frame and things like that. So it is also, it's one of those where you see the reward in it. You see the kids say, I did that. Do you see that wall? I did that. I used that that saw, or I put that together. I used the nail gun for the first time, and that's an amazing feeling. And it's one where they get to see their product. A lot of the times when you teach, you work towards and you see them 10 years down the road, and you think, I was a small part of that child's success, a tiny little part. But with this, they get to see their successes, and they get to see it built in front of them. They also get to meet the families that they build for. And so I remember probably 4 years ago, we were ahead of where we needed to be. Our kids are really amazing, and we framed a whole nother house that we weren't supposed to frame. So they called the woman and said, you got to get down here, something's wrong. So they made her believe there was something wrong, and when she showed up, she got to see the walls of her house for the first time. And she was in her late 40s, and this was going to be her first house that her kids were going to get to live in. And she just burst into tears. She hugged every single kid, and if you want to make 17-year-old boys cry, that was the way to it. But oh my goodness, as a teacher, they walked away with a life experience that you can't learn in a classroom. And that's why we do it. We do it to show them what they're capable of. So
that's very cool.
Yeah.
I just had a thought and I lost it.
I'm tearing up again. Every time I talk to you guys, I tear up.
I know what I was going to ask you. Do you have any moments through your years of teaching that you can think of that you went home and said, that's why I'm doing this?
I'm trying to think. I have one student who, I have several, but I was going through the drive-thru the other day at a local restaurant here. Actually, they just were the winners of the fork contest. Roll with it. And one of my students is working there, and she said, Miss Kaericher, I switched my major. And you always go, oh no, what's going on, what's wrong? And she goes, no, I switched it to chemistry. She said, I didn't think I would love it as much as I do until I took your class. And she goes, thank you for showing me how great it can be. That to know that it sparked their interest in a career is amazing. I've had another student who, he would come and sit in my classroom every morning. He wasn't the one who wanted to be out in the halls talking or roaming around. He was much more content in a small, quiet space. And so he'd come in and talk to me about his life every day. And I remember his mom coming up to me at a parent night at the middle school when his siblings were in middle school and saying he thinks he wants to do something in medicine or in chemistry because of your class. And so he kind of stuck with me for the next few years, and he actually just graduated with a full ride to Washington University in St. Louis in the pre-med program. He comes back every break and visits and talks to my kids about what he does. And of course, he's putting things on the board. My kids are like, dude, we're just learning how to balance compounds right now. We don't know how to do that. But to see him, be successful, and again, like I said earlier, to get to be that small part, those moments. But it's not necessarily the big ones, it's all the tiny little things that add up together. Seeing the kid realize that they got a B in my class and they didn't think that they would ever be able to do that, and high-fiving me as they look at their final grade. Those are the moments that all add up. Or just even today, to hear them laughing while they're doing something educational, to hear them having fun and loving to be in my classroom, those are the blessings. So it's all the little things that add up into one. That's why teachers do it. So
going through school, or maybe even when you got back here, are there any teachers that you kind of maybe stole from, for lack of a better term, or thought that's, I like that's my teaching style, or that's something that I like? Is there anybody like that comes to mind?
I think we're all different in our own way, but I think you pick up things. I still use things that I learned during my student teaching from the student teachers that I worked under, and I use those in my classroom still today. So they were amazing resources. But I remember there's two people that stand out in my mind. One is Adam Ibbotson. He was my high school chemistry teacher, and I remember he was one of the people for me that sparked my love for science. I wanted to go to chemistry every day, and in my mind, when my kids walk in, I want them to have that feeling. I love this class. I want to be here every day. And so he's kind of who prospered me into that area. But also I work with her still. Her name's Lisa Billington, and she was one of my teachers in high school, and she's now one of my dear friends. But she shows such humility and such love. And she did for me when I was in high school, and she does for her kids now. And she's my constant, my rock. So I'm so thankful to not only have gotten to have her as a teacher, but to call her my friend today. So that's a pretty big blessing.
Absolutely. Trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything you'd like to add that you think's important that you would want people to know about you, this school, your students? Anything like that?
I think that who you become as a person, there's a saying that goes, you learn to show love how you're given love. And I know a huge part of who I am is because of how much my parents loved me and how much they pushed. And so I'm very thankful for that. But like I said, I think it's all part of this environment. And growing up, every single person here has supported me and shown me love in some way. And they are very much responsible. The people in the building now are very much responsible for who I've become. And so I just hope that someday we have kids that look back at us and think, yeah, they were a pretty big part of who I am. So,
the last question I'll ask you is, we touched on it earlier. This is not a great time to be a teacher.
No.
I mean, with everything that's going on, does that? I guess, what do you think is maybe the best thing about teaching, and what's the biggest struggle you see?
For the future teachers coming in, it is going to be, we don't make millions of dollars, ever. We don't. And it's a time in the world where people are going into careers because they make money. And so that's where we are seeing the downward slide of teachers go, is because you can graduate and do something that makes thousands and thousands of dollars more than you can being a teacher, but you don't do it for the money. I very much believe that teaching is a calling, and if you're called to it, you're not going to be happy anywhere else. So for them, you got to realize, is that where your heart is at? Because if you can love the content, you can love science, but if you don't love those people that walk through your door every day, you're not going to make it in this profession, because you have to love your kids. You have to love them on their crazy moments and their bad days, and when they're being crazy teenagers, you have to love them every single moment they walk in, not just on the good days. So if you don't have that ability, clearly this isn't what you're going to want to do. So in 30 years, you still have to want to love your kids that walk through your door. But that's a great thing. You also get to love your kids. No day is the same, ever. You never know what they're going to walk in with, what their day is going to be like. And so they're a constant challenge. And so I think it pushes you to be a more understanding and a better person, because you're faced with so many different trials, not through your life maybe, but through theirs. And so they present those to you. But there are moments where they will sit down and tell you about their life, and you'll just stop and you'll say, man, I am so blessed. I'm so blessed to have grown up in the home I'm in. But yeah, you have to have that love.
Yeah.
So.
Good. I have one more question.
Okay.
This is not actually for the piece. This is actually for the program that we did.
Okay.
We did it last year, and it was kind of a big hit.
Okay.
So I will ask you, if you have any stories or something that's ever happened in your classroom
Mm-hmm.
that other teachers can relate to, something that's funny,
Mm-hmm.
something that's, anything like that's ever happened to you.
Mm-hmm. I will tell you, now when I look back at it, I was horrified when it happened, but don't give up when the bad things happen is my word of advice, because my first year in chemistry, I thought, we're learning about electron movement and fireworks deal with electron movement, and I thought, I'm going to have my kids make fireworks. So I did all the research, and I came up with the formulas, and I practiced. I did it probably 8 or 9 times. I made this firework 8 or 9 times on my own, and I thought, okay, I'm good. I'm going to do it with my kids. And one tiny little accident happened. One of my girls got her hot pad too close to the heat, and it sparked, and it reacted. And they lit my classroom on fire. And it was the most traumatic experience I've had in 7 years of teaching. But it also showed you, again, that thing, what I said earlier with, you gotta love them when they walk back in. But it also showed them accidents happen, and you learn from them, and you learn caution, and you learn to be careful. A lot of times we think we're invincible, that we can't be hurt. And so it kind of showed them that. But it was also kind of a bonding experience for the kids. And so when they came back together, we had popsicles the next day. And I said, it was kind of like the 4th of July, fireworks went off in here. And so they all kind of started to laugh again. But, you just got to bounce back from the bad things and cherish the really great things and use both of those to make yourself better and to keep challenging yourself every day. So.
Perfect.